The Federal Reserve is a modern financial instrument that we've never needed in the past, but now it's seen as the foundational, crucial piece of our modern economy.
Oh, boy.
Its influence on markets is enormous.
That's true.
What's your opinion on the Federal Reserve? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, we've got some very beautiful buildings.
Oh, I've never seen them.
Oh, yes. The architecture of most Federal Reserve banks is quite lovely. Not all, most. The old ones. But that was true of banks in general. When I was a kid, banks tended to be very impressive looking buildings. But that probably is not what you're after. As an institution, the reason why we didn't need the Federal Reserve Bank once upon a time was because Congress and the government were limited as to how much they could produce in the way of dollars. There had to be 100 cents of gold on hand for each dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did that mean? It meant that you could only have so many dollars. Just as a limited number.
Yeah.
1912 comes along, and we'd had a couple of panics and all that. Initially, in the beginning of the country, we had two central banks. A central bank are the people, the government bank, that look after the flow of money for and also play banker, for a given government. We had two of these, both of them called the Bank of the United States. Oddly enough, called the first Bank of the United States, the second Bank of the United States. Andrew Jackson was of the opinion that the central government, the federal government, should not have that kind of control over the money supply beyond minting it. So he allowed the charter of the second bank to lapse. And from that time until 1912, we had no central bank. We had a lot of other banks. And these other banks would print paper money based upon what was supposed to be the holdings in their vaults. I say supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, they'd always print more. And every now and then there'd be a run on the bank, and that's why they had these panics and all that.
Interesting.
So to keep that from happening, they came up with the idea of once again putting together a central bank. But this central bank would not be owned by the federal government.
Why not?
I don't know. There are reasons for it, I don't know what they were. What I do know is that the Federal Reserve Bank is actually owned by its stockholders, although the director of the Fed is appointed by the government. And just to make things a little more confusing for you, the entirety of the money in circulation is actually a loan by the Federal Reserve Bank to the United States government.
Wow. Okay.
However, it's a loan that will never be called in.
Now, part of the reason why I was thinking about this question for you is because in one episode, many episodes ago, you talked about, you suggested it's immoral to inflate money. You
Yes.
seem to suggest that.
I did.
And so the purpose of the Federal Reserve is to manage inflation.
Yeah.
As if inflation is a universal constant. It's accepted.
Well, it is now.
Now you seem to suggest that there shouldn't be inflation. That the fact that there's inflation is an immoral use of money.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, we've gotten so far down this path that it's the only frame of reference we have. Think back to the Great Depression. All right. Now, at that time, we had the Federal Reserve Bank. We also had the whole 100 cents to the dollar thing. The Depression came along, and what was the biggest thing that hit the American economy? It was deflation. Salaries fell and prices fell.
Yeah.
And production ground to a halt. So jobs, ended. Well, what to do? What the President, Franklin Roosevelt, and his advisors came to think was that what was needed was inflation. A bigger money supply would stimulate the economy. People would begin working again. People would thus demand stuff, and the economy would get on a move. He also had the bright idea of calling in all our foreign debts, which did nothing except to spread the depression across the globe.
Wow.
But, well, it was called the beggar my neighbor policy, and it didn't work out very well.
Okay.
But at any rate, so what does he do? in 1933, he calls in all the gold, all the privately owned gold, and everybody surrenders it except for jewelry and coin collections.
Mm-hmm.
And then takes charge of it, and he declares that from now on, the dollar only needs to be backed by 33 cents of gold. What does that mean? It means that they can release 2/3 more paper money into the economy. And they do.
Yeah.
And then he puts through a whole bunch of public works schemes and electrification of places, lots of different things all at the same time. None of it really worked, but it seemed to. What really got us out of the Depression was World War II.
Yeah.
But at any rate, that began what was called, instead of the gold standard, the gold exchange standard. And that limited the exchange of gold to central banks dealing with each other. It's interesting, do you know what the highest denomination of U.S. currency is? Ever, I mean.
Ever?
Yeah,
I don't know. 10,000?
Nope. Well, the $10,000 bill, we stopped making them in 1973, but we had them.
Okay, what's the highest denomination?
100,000.
Wow.
It's got Woodrow Wilson's face on it. But it's only used for transactions between federal banks.
Wow. Federal banks do cash transactions?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
100 grand here. I always fantasized, when I first found out about that in elementary school, I fantasized about somehow getting my hands on one, taking it to the gas station, buying some corn nuts and asking for change. But now $500 bills used to be fairly common.
Interesting.
But
It's strange that they used to be common and now money is more inflated, and now you'd think they're more practical.
yeah, well, you would. I mean, they got rid of them under Nixon. You had the 10,000, the 5,000, the 1,000, the 500,
Okay.
and then you got rid of all of them.
Interesting.
Oh, well. So, at any rate, to answer your question, we have institutionalized inflation,
Okay.
which is a little bit like institutionalizing abortion. I don't know. It's not a good thing, but I'm not being an economist. I can't tell you how to escape it.
Okay. I have a follow-up question to this, which is, would the Federal Reserve have a place in your Star-Spangled Crowniverse?
Oh,
Would the king keep it, or would the king abolish the Federal Reserve?
he'd probably nationalize it and make it the Bank of the United States,
Okay.
and take back money policy into his own hands.
Okay. Interesting.
Actually, I suppose I shouldn't say this in front of you, but the beginning of the novel I sent you is actually set in the Star-Spangled Crowniverse in the far future.
The sci-fi thing?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't want to stimulate you to read it or anything.
Uh-oh. Well, we're going to have a clamor from our fans now. Franchini needs to read that, and you guys need to publish it.
I wouldn't say that, ladies and gentlemen, and let them read it. They may know a lot more about it than you do. And this thing is garbage. Well, maybe they're right. So leave them alone. Besides, the suits are going to be demanding more than we want out of them anyway.
Yeah.
Producer, get out!